Good morning. Good morning. We are on another series. I'm back, right? We're on another series. We're talking about rising this month. It is July. Okay. It is July. And we are on another series. We're talking about rising, how to release and rise on July. I hope that you guys enjoyed the Unlock series. If you want that whole series, make sure that you go to SheilaLittle.com/life so that you can become a part of the project. When you become a part of the project, then you can get all of the series. We're in month 7, right? We're talking about how to rise and release on today. We're in the middle of the week, just coming off vacation. And so I will be here today, tomorrow, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. No, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And today we're kicking off our new series, How to Release and Rise, you guys. Listen, when fear becomes your author, rewriting that story that is keeping you small. I have to read this because this release series is all about why do I keep holding back, right? It's July. We're in the middle of the year. Okay. We had some goals, right? We had some things. We slid back a little bit. Maybe we're at a point where we accomplished our goals, right? Or just getting some clarity through life, through social media. Maybe you saw a therapist or whatever. And now we're going to try to answer this question. Why do I keep holding back? Holding back from the life I want, holding back from the conversations that I need to have, holding back just from this greatness that's inside of me that I desire so much, right? That I desire so much. Why am I holding back? Listen, this session really reveals how fear, or this lesson really is here to reveal how fear has been secretly writing your internal script, okay? Like from the past betrayals to inherited anxieties, we're going to cover how old experiences has shaped your current hesitation and how to really rewrite the narrative from a safe space, right? From a safe space and just not survival. Okay, listen, when fear becomes the author, rewriting a story that really keeps you small. Okay, as you see on the thumbnail, it says you don't need to fear the next chapter. Guess what you need to do? You just need to get out a pen. You just need to get out a pen and write it. I heard a social media post and a dude said, look up the word future. And I'm going to challenge you guys to go look up the word future. Okay. Look up the word future. The word future, by definition, you guys, let me pull it up. The word future, by definition, you guys, it means the thing after you write. It is truly the thing after you write. So the future is, by definition, a time or period that the word future is defined as the time or a period of time following the moment of speaking or writing. Time regarded as something that's still to come, but is the moment of speaking and writing. So when I'm encouraging you guys to write your story, listen, that is your future. The words you speak and what you write. And this whole series about Rise and this whole week is truly encouraging you to pick up the pen. Pick up the pen and start writing your story, you guys. Listen, again, this lesson is really here to help you recognize how fear has been writing your internal narrative, all right? Disguised as wisdom, delay, and caution, and it's here to really show you how to reclaim your authorship in truth and not trauma, you guys, in your truth and not your trauma. Again, we're just in a new generation. All right. Enough with the blaming mama. I get it. It hurt. I had a mother who wasn't present. Okay. I had a father who wasn't present. I, experienced some, mental, emotional, physical, sexual abuse, right? These things happen. And at this time in your life, it's time to take charge of your life. The people that I work with experience way more than me. Good morning, Mama Sharon. Good morning, Pep. Good morning, Miss Brittany. Good morning, Cousin Gladys. Okay, listen. I know that you guys have a story, but remember this word future says the time or period following the moment you speak or write. So you are creating your future with every word you speak, with every time you journal. And it was always something about journaling for me. right? So I never really have been a journaler until I got into my 40s. But it was something about journaling that the heaviness of it, right? So, writing where you're at and like why life is so hard and like repeating that. And I want to encourage you guys to write a different journal, right? Write a story of your life where you're the main character, right? And life is doing what you want it to do, right? Not what you don't want it to do. Because remember, where your attention goes, your energy flows, all right? So I got a question to ask you. What if the story holding you back doesn't start with you, but it's been living through you? Okay. This week, um, you'll see the Stop It Now challenge. We're uncovering how fear has been silently scripting your self-talk, all right, and your choices, all right, and your choices. And guess what? Your confidence. Here's the thing. The truth is, you're not confused. You're not behind. Okay. You are rehearsing the fear-based script that was never meant to define you, you guys. So today's life lesson, we're going to help you with spotting the story of fear and how it has been writing your life to really reclaim your voice, okay, and your truth, right, and rewrite your narrative. So I want to say good morning. Good morning, good morning. Welcome back to Life Lessons. Welcome back to Life Lessons with Dr. Sheila Little. If you're new here, I am Dr. Sheila Little, right? The creator of the Stop It Now method, all right, and the creator of Project Life. So Life Lessons is a part of Project Life. Project Life is this initiative where we turn theory into practice. It's so much information, right? And although the mind can adapt, right, it's flexible. That's why you're here, because you do have a sense of resolve, right? You've gotten through so many things. But a lot of the narratives that I'm hearing is that I'm tired, right? I'm tired of holding everybody together. I'm tired of being the strong one. I'm tired of having to fix everybody. I'm tired of the judgments that people have about who I am, right? It's just this weight, this feeling of tiredness. And it can sometimes be maximized because we're watching social media, right? And social media is in a sense like glamifying like people's life and like everything is good for everybody else. And it's not like that for me. And I'm just going to encourage you on a day today to truly rewrite your story. All right. To really rewrite your story and yeah, reclaim your power. Okay. Reclaim your power. So I have another question. What if you've been calling your silence wisdom, right? But really, it was fear, right? With the microphone. All right. And what if the version of you that feels stuck is actually just living from an old script? So you're feeling stuck because you're actually living from this old, outdated version of who somebody told you was. Now, who is that somebody? That somebody could be the old you that's narrating, right? The you that got bullied, the you, if you was me, that grew up in poverty, right, that grew up in lack, right, that's trying to control your current moment, and you just not that individual anymore, right? Who else is this somebody? It could be your mom, your dad, right? A lot of us have wounded parents, right? Parents that grew up in homes that perceived, like when we were younger, these homes like grandpa and granddaddy was together, right? But when we listen to our parents, we know that the relationships that our parents had with their parents was not really healthy relationships, right? And so that wrote a script for us, right? And we're actually living out, right, an old script. And it's really time to update that. Listen, you go update your phone, right? You got the new iPhone, you got the new Android, right? You got the new kicks, you got the new bag, you got the new car, right? But you still running on an outdated script of who you are, right? You didn't update everything, your bank account, your relationship, you probably done got, some stuff done, right? Right. And that's okay, right? But the internal narrative that you're running on is still from this childhood wound. And we're here to fix that in this project, and we're here to fix that this week. Why? Because I know what it feels like to live, okay, according to an emotional script that fear wrote for me. All right. Without even realizing, good morning, little big brother. I love you. Okay. I know what it feels like to write that script. And I worked with so many people who live from that script, right? Who live from this fear script, right? Without even realizing it. So many of us don't even know that we need a new script, right? That we need new instruction and we need to reclaim our pen, right? We are truly looking for somebody to come save us. I heard another person, or I was reading a book and it was talking about there was a time where we lived in a permission-based society, right? Where you needed permission to go drink water, right? You needed permission to do so much. And even as kids, right? You needed permission. And so somewhere in our minds, we're looking for that same permission. We're looking for someone to come and say, I give you permission to go be great, right? I give you permission to go live your life unapologetically, right? But that was an era just like we lived in the agriculture age, just like we lived in, the age of the auto industry, right? These were ages. And the age that we used to live in was this permission-based age, right? And now we don't need permission. We have access to information on our phone. So you don't even, like, you can literally create your own business from the seat in your house. Never go outside, right? So we don't need the permission that our brain is used to having. So we need to really update, right? Update our software, our mental software, our mindsets, so we can truly start to live outside of this box, right? That life and our circumstances have created for us. All right. So here's my disclaimer for this morning. This session is really designed to really increase your awareness, but it's not just about knowing where fear lives. It's really about being confronted. It's really about confronting what is costing you, okay, and choosing something different, because real transformation starts really when you start rehearsing and start rewriting. All right. And what are you rehearsing? Yesterday, you're rehearsing yesterday, you're rehearsing your 20s, you're rehearsing the things you lost, right? And it's so sophisticated because you really don't realize you're doing it. And that's the genius of God, right? The genius of God is that we could be living in a silo, or we can be living in this vortex of shame, guilt, depression. We don't even realize it, right? Because it's all we know in the moment. And until you get out of it, right? Until you actually get out of it and move, you don't really realize that you're in that. All right. So good morning. Good morning. It is Wednesday. All right. So again, I'll be here Wednesday this week. I'll be here Wednesday. I'll be here Thursday. I'll be here Friday, and I'll be here Saturday, because we need to get through this series, right? We wrapped up the Unlock Your Potential series. And if you want that again, make sure you go to sheilittle.com/life, right? So that you can get all of the series up into this series. In this series, we're talking about why do I keep holding back? So let's get present in our bodies. I know that it's the middle of the morning, right? So much probably has transpired. You probably got that phone call, something happened at work or something. So let's just recenter ourselves, feeling your feet on the ground. All right. Bring us some compassion and love. Remember, a part of this project is being compassionate with ourselves and loving on our bodies. All right. This is your time. No pressure. Just your presence, you guys. Just your presence. Okay. So feeling your feet on the floor, scanning your bodies. And as you're scanning, I want you to drop a word in the chat. Let me know how you're feeling on this morning. How are you feeling? I'm feeling good. I was stuck at the airport yesterday. On Monday, I saw Beyonce, right? Went and visited my good friend. So it's been exciting for me these last couple of weeks. As you know, I graduated and all of that. And then after that, I got to see Beyonce. Me and my best friend Keisha, and Talia, and my friend Joy. We were over on the East Coast. And and it was a nice concert. I truly enjoyed myself. It's a way to celebrate, right? Life, right? Celebrate this thing called life, and be with friends. And it's so different because I remember a time where we go anywhere, right? And we're clubbing, but now it's just about having supportive conversations, eating really good food, right? And really just the camaraderie of friendship. So just sitting up and having those pajama parties and those long talks and really getting to meet, my friends' kids in a way, because all of our friends, my friends live out of town. So, getting to spend time with their kids and things like that, and seeing these women blossom, right, and grow from the 20 something year olds that we were, and then seeing them in their 30s. And now we're all in our 40s, right, and just expanded wives and mothers and things like that. So, on this morning, I am truly grateful. All right. How are you feeling? Pep said he's feeling accomplished. You should feel accomplished, Pep. I read your post. You're doing very well with working out. You just came off the fast. You're doing really good. So you should absolutely feel accomplished, Pep. Definitely, definitely. Anybody else? How are you feeling on this morning? I'm feeling grateful. Pep is feeling accomplished. Hey, if you don't want to drop it, that's fine. But I do want you to write, take a little note and write. How are you feeling? And if it could be a space of affirming, right? So just say, that you're not feeling well, that's okay. We don't have to judge that, right? So maybe you're feeling stuck or whatever. Next to it, make that whole, right? Because we know that the reason why we have light right now, right, is because of the negative and positive charge. So sometimes it's our responsibility to make a situation whole, right, and be holy in that, and not holy as HOLY, right, not the divine holy, but holy in the sense of creating a situation that's whole, right? So if I am feeling sad and down, it may be a reason for that, right? It may be a reason for that. So now it's my time to say, okay, what do I need? And I always say sadness is just, it's a very much a contracting emotion, and it's asking for something, right? So next to the word sad, I will want you to write, well, what is it that you need, right? What is that hunger? The sadness, if you're angry, what is the resolve for that, right? This weekend was the first time my friends realized what I did. Okay. And she looked at me, she said, "Oh my gosh," because they call me Tommy, all right? My friends call me Tommy. They don't know what I do, like, what do you do? And so this weekend, she said, "I finally realized what you do. You're a problem solver, right?" And I said, "Yeah, my company is called Shaping Solutions, right? Like, I help shape solutions in people's lives and their business. And a part of shaping this solution is particular to you." All right. And to make a situation whole, it's not that we just want to hold on to this contracting emotion, which could be sadness or anger. We also want to bring some light into that. So I encourage you that if you're not feeling all the way full, right, what will fill you up? Miss Brittany said, "I am feeling nervous." Oh, that. So is there a particular reason why you're feeling nervous on this morning? If you want to share it, you can share it. If not, and then what do you think that is? Because I always think that nervousness, and thank you for sharing, Miss Brittany, is this kind of two-sided coin, right? So it's like, are you anxious about something? Is it your intelligence, like something great is about to happen that divinely right? But y- because we are limited sometimes in our psyche, right? I don't really know. And so it's triggering something, and I'm feeling a little anxious or nervous because I feel like something bad's going to happen, but really it's something good, right? Really, it's a great opportunity or change or something like that. But what I'm going to do for you this morning, Miss Brittany, is hold a space for your nervousness. All right. And I'm going to stand with you this morning in that, right? That you, um, hoping that things are right. She said, "Yes, I take my national boards." Oh my gosh. On Saturday, right? And this will be my second time. Listen, one, thank you for going back. All right. Thank you for going back. All right. And I'm going to hold a space that this time, all the lessons that you've learned, right? All of the, so she's going to be a mortician, right? That's what it is. So she's taking her national boards to become for mortuary science, right? On Saturday. And yeah, that's huge, Miss Brittany. That is huge. So congratulations to getting to this point, right? And if it take one time, two times, three times, well, we're going to say this second time going to be the time, because you're going to take everything you've learned, right, up to this time into there. And what you're going to do when you get into that boards is you're going to breathe, okay? You're going to breathe, be in the moment, and just allow, right? Allow the knowledge that you have, right, to be present with you, all right? And just breathe and answer those questions, right? And you're going to feel some angst and some nervousness, because this is life changing. Okay. Right. Right. She said, "I was so discouraged for a while." Don't be discouraged, baby. Listen, Sometimes change can feel very nervous, right? And sometimes it can challenge us. It can challenge us, but you made it here, okay? You made it here. And from here, you're going to get some information that's going to take you there. Where is there to greatness, honey? Because you are going to be a mortuary science, and that you're going to pass this board for mortuary science. If you need my support, DM me or whatever, right? But congratulations for making it this far. And for not letting the first failure stop you. I think that should be applauded. So if anybody want to support her, go on there and put some likes and support her, okay? In that initiative. Thank you for sharing. Okay. So again, who is this session for today? This session is for you. Listen, if you feel stuck, but you can't explain why, all right? If you've avoided certain rooms, certain peoples, and certain decisions without knowing the reason. All right. And if you feel like fear is the voice of reason, when really it's an old trauma, right? On repeat, right? This is for you if you're ready to tell a better story. All right. Miss Brittany said, I truly appreciate you so much. Oh, I appreciate you for sharing, and I appreciate you for stepping courageously, right? And not being afraid. When I say afraid, again, I think that we can be afraid and not do the thing, right? That's to me what afraid is. But, we can go with the fear, and that's courage, right? You're going with the fear. You understand that this is a big thing for you, right? You were discouraged. You're feeling a lot of resistance, but you're pushing through it. And know that resistance, when we push through, guess what? It makes us stronger. It makes us stronger. All right. So here's our powerful quote for this morning. Listen, fear is a loud narrator, but a poor author. All right. You get to choose how your story continues. All right. Fear is a loud narrator. It's screaming, right? It's loud, right? But it's a poor author because what it's trying to do has no bearings, right? It feels real, but we know that something could feel true and it's just not true. It's just not true. All right. All right. Miss Sharon, my mama Sharon, supporting you, Miss Brittany. She said, awesome. Congrats on your success. All right. So, okay. So let's talk about today's life lesson. Today, again, we name what has been unnamed. Fear isn't just about panic, you guys. It's about programming. All right. And you've been repeating stories that didn't start with you. Okay. But they will end with you. All right. They didn't start with you, but you can end it. All right. So this week is all about releasing this grip on fear. All right. And today's anchor is where did the fear-based story really begin? All right. You can't break free of the script that you're still rehearsing if we don't really know, right, where it started from. All right. So here's an example. I had a client that once told me, I thought I was just indecisive, right? And we know indecisive means I just didn't make decisions, or I was scared to make decisions, right? I want other people to make decisions for me. So I thought I was just indecisive, but I realized I was raised to second guess myself. Right. I was raised to second guess myself. Her delays wasn't about her doubt, you guys. They were a trauma pattern, right? She was raised to second guess herself. And so when she became an adult, she just was like, oh, I'm indecisive. But truly, when we went back over her life, it was like things, when she would do stuff, it would be questioned. Why did she do this? And why did that happen? And that came from a wound in somebody else. And what started to happen was she started to live in that wound. All right. So I want you to pause and I want you to think, okay, what's one decision you've delayed, not because of lack of information, but because fear was in control. All right. Because fear was in control. Again, hold your heart posture. Just be honest with yourself. What is that one decision that I've delayed? Not because of my lack of information, not even for a lack of gift, right? But because, right, fear was in control. All right. So here's 5 truths that I need you to know, right? You're not confused. You're scared. All right. You're not confused. You're scared. Many people label hesitation as I'm not ready or I need more clarity. But more than not, guess what? You have enough information to move forward. All right. The delay isn't due to a lack of knowledge. It's really rooted in this emotional cost of risk. All right. So clarity isn't your issue. Courage is, right? You know what to do. You just are scared to do it. right? And that fear is holding you back, all right? And that is an emotional cost of risk. Okay? When we take risk, it costs us our emotions. We got to feel some stuff. All right? And that's the cost. And if we know in the stopping out framework, we talk about this opportunity cost, right? And one of these costs is emotions. And a lot of us just don't want to feel. We don't want to feel that uncomfortableness. We don't want to feel that delay. We don't want to feel that angst, right? We don't want to feel the discouraged. We don't want to feel the resistance or the contracting emotions because it actually does feel better to expand. But because we live in a world, again, where there's light and dark, where there's left and right, where there's up and down, right? We can't only feel expansive emotions like joy, love, happiness, contentment, neutrality, right? Without also experiencing the the opposite of that, right? Right? We talked about the law of polarity, right? This law of polarity says because there's a left, there has to be a right, right? Because there's up, there has to be down. And a lot of us are not willing to have that emotional cost, the cost of our emotions, and it's holding us back. All right. Number two, avoidance is often disguised as preparation, you guys. Listen, the need to perfect the plan, all right, to pray just one more time is sometimes a spiritual form of avoidance. All right, I'm gonna pray about it, and I'm gonna keep praying about it, and I'm gonna keep praying about it. And I'm like, listen, we can pray about it, but you got to do something, right? You got to do something. You got to do something about it, right? And sometimes the doing something is being present in the body, being present with that emotion, right? Allowing yourself to feel. So doing something is not always a physical thing. It could just be stepping back into your being, right? And not trying to avoid this emotion. All right, listen, again, the need to perfect the plan or pray just one more time, is sometimes a spiritual form of avoidance. We tell ourselves we're waiting on a sign when really we're avoiding responsibility, we're avoiding visibility and vulnerability. Listen, you're not lazy. You're just protecting yourself from what feels unsafe, okay? Even if it's aligned. Remember, sometimes the most aligned things in our life is the most scariest things, right? Because we're confronting a part of us that has been taken away from us or have been made to seem like, it's undoable. But just the word impossible means I'm possible. All right. And so we really have to understand that avoidance can be disguised as preparation. All right. Number three, fear will borrow your voice and rewrite your narrative. All right. If left unchecked, I want you to know that fear starts speaking for you. Okay, it will start speaking for you. This is again when you're choosing to be the passenger in your life, right? When you're choosing to live in those lower paradigms like the duty paradigm or the victim paradigm, right? You're leaving an emotion to be the driver of the seat. Okay, the driver of the car, I'm sorry, right? While you're sitting in the passenger seat, right? So again, if left unchecked, fear starts to speak to you, telling you what you can't do, what will go wrong, how small you need to be, right, to stay safe. And again, it's not saying stay small, it's just saying don't say that. Okay, so again, it may not say like be small. It's not saying that, but it's telling you to do small things, right? Like be quiet, don't say that, right? People are going to judge you for that. Like it's whispering to you, really keeping you stuck. And remember, everything in nature is growing and expanding, and you should be too. All right. It will insert it's it's conversation into your decisions. It will insert its thoughts and beliefs into your relationships and even in your self-talk, right? You can hear fear like narrating to you. But here's the truth. Fear might have written some of the chapters in your life, right? But it doesn't own your whole book. It doesn't own the whole story. So we can have some compassion for ourselves for those seasons in our life where we were fearful. All right. And we didn't do the thing because fear won. All right. But it may have won. What is that saying? It may have won the battle, but it didn't win the war. Right? Right. Because we got up. We get up and we get up to fight again. And not even a fight. We get up to win. We get up to win again. All right. A couple of more. Delaying is a decision with the cost. All right. Every time you stall on purpose, all right, you say yes to staying the same. All right. Every time you stall on purpose or even unintentionally, you are really saying yes to staying the same. Listen, postpone obedience is still obedience in your divine becoming. All right. This isn't about pressure, it's about purpose. All right. Delay has the opportunity cost of missed peace, missed progress, and misalignment. All right. So delaying is a decision with a cost. All right. Last but not least, I want you to know that the feeling of fear doesn't qualify your readiness. All right. A lot of times we're waiting for to stop feeling scared. Okay. Right. But fear doesn't qualify your readiness. All right. You can feel fear and still be fully ready to move. All right. You can feel fear and be fully ready to move. Too often we believe the lie that readiness is the absence of fear, and it's not. And it's not. All right. Readiness is your willingness to act while carrying truth louder than your fear. It's interesting. I was thinking, I seen Blue Ivy come out on the stage, and again, an extreme. This is an extreme example, but I seen her come out on stage and she did her dance. But as she was, waving to everybody. You could see her nervous. You could see her shaking, right? Like her hands shaking, like she was nervous, right? And I just think that a lot of times when we get nervous or something, it's as if it's triggering this. You shouldn't be doing this. And no, you're going to be nervous, right? You're going to be nervous. And people who have experienced being on that stage, people have experienced stepping out in faith, people have experienced facing their fears. When they see you nervous, they're not judging you. They're applauding you, right? It's only the people who still live in la la land, right? Who haven't pressed themselves, who are sitting back judging, right? Who's sitting back judging you for what you're doing, right? So when your voice breaks or when you make a mistake, they are yeah, they're judging it, but they haven't done anything. So they have no reference point, right? For for what you're doing. And we tend to seek those people and believe in those people. I was talking to my friend and she talked about how she, really loved how to sing. And when, she was younger, some of her peers told her that she couldn't really sing, right? And it just stole her voice from her, right? And it's interesting how we allow other people to steal our voice, to steal our glory, to because we mess up, because we've not gotten it right all the time. And we will let that be the narrative for us. And it's not the narrative. All right. So again, the feeling of fear doesn't disqualify your readiness, you guys. We're going to go with the fear. All right. We're going to move with the fear. And what you realize is that the more you move, right? It's kind of like the Bible scripture when the Messiah told the man, as you go, right, you will be healed, right? So as you move with the fear will dissolve and your greatness will start to be seen. All right. All right. So here's a reflection I want you to think about. What decision have I, this is you asking the first person, what decision have I delayed? Again, not because I didn't know what to do, but because fear was narrating the consequence. All right. And then I want you to say out loud, I'm going to take my pen back, right? I'm going to rewrite that. Right. So even though fear may be screaming at me, I get the opportunity to write back what I'm going to do. All right. Because I'm the driver in this seat of this life, of this thing called life, and I get to narrate what's happening to me. And the better narrator become, right, the better my experiences with life will be. All right. All right. So listen, fear becomes the storyteller when left unchecked. It doesn't just affect your emotions, you guys. It actually reshapes your identity. And when I say reshape your identity, I'm saying that it actually changes how you see yourself. All right. When you start to allow fear to creep in, it starts to, take hold of how you see yourself, what you think you can do, how you move, and things like that. Why? Because what we believe about ourselves actually influences everything we do. And that's why identity, in that it factor, we talk about identity. right? In the stop it now, in that stop it now method, we talk about identity because it's so important because how you identify with yourself, not how other people identify with you, how you identify with you is how other people are going to identify with you. What you believe you can do is what you're going to do. All right. And so we have to start to reshape our identities, right? And what we're capable of doing. All right. So if fear keeps the pen, guess what? Your divine self, your soul really never gets to speak. That true part of you, in essence, never gets to speak. I had a woman who shared with me once I named the fear of rejection, I realized that I have been writing every email, every post, every prayer from this place of apology. All right. I thought that was powerful. Right. So when she realized she had this fear of rejection, it kind of shaped even how she entered a room. Right. Because there was this fear of being rejected. So there was this sense of living in apology. Like, I'm sorry, I remember working with the person that every time they talked, they was like, I'm sorry, I'm just so apologetic. I'm like, why are you apologizing for yourself? Right. But they grew up in a home and in an environment where they were made to feel wrong. Right. And so everything was, well, I'm sorry. Let me say this. I'm sorry. Let me do this. And then I remember feeling in a stage in my life where I'm apologizing. Right. Well, excuse me, I want to say this, my bad, I'm sorry, right? And it was all from this fear of rejection. All right. Listen, trauma studies confirm that past experiences can encode fear-based scripts into our behavior by default. All right, by default. Listen, you're not stuck, you're just rehearsing. If you're ready, are you ready to start writing something new? If you are, press yes, right? Put yes in the comments. Again, if you don't want to put yes in the comments, I want you to close your eyes and I want you to see yes on the screen of your mind, right? Yes, I am ready to stop rehearsing and start writing my story. Okay. And start rewriting my story. So we know that typically on Mondays, I talk about stories and triggers, right? We've condensed over the summer, we've condensed Stop It Now. So we do it in 4 days and not five, right? So I talk about stories and triggers together. All right. Listen, these truths really help you to realize how fear writes, distorts, and anchors your life narratives until you start to really reclaim authorship. All right. So here is some facts or some truths about stories and triggers. Fear isn't a story, it's a symptom. All right. Fear isn't a story, it's a symptom. Fear doesn't only show up as a reaction, you guys. It starts to build a narrative. All right. It says you always mess up. You won't be accepted. You doing too much. All right. These aren't isolated feelings. They're actually scripts that you've subconsciously memorized. Until you recognize fear as a storyteller, guess what? You treat that symptom of hesitation without really healing the story that's creating the fear, right? So there's a narrative of inadequacy. There's a narrative of, unacceptance. There's a narrative of unenoughness, right? That's the underbelly, right, of the fear, right? So when you go to step into something, it's triggering this old narrative underneath you or in your child or in your nervous system that's really creating this pause or this fear that's now narrating the story to you. All right. The second thing I want you to know is the longer you ignore the script, the more it shapes your identity. I want I realize that a lot of us, I'm saying us, right? A lot of us have things packed in this closet or in this trunk. It's in the attic, it's in the basement, somewhere. We just pack all these emotions, all of these fears, all of these shoulda, coulda, wouldas, right? All of this stuff we just have packed away. All right. But listen, the longer you ignore this fear script, guess what? The more it starts to shape your identity. What began as a reaction, even when you were younger, of I'm not enough, really becomes a belief, then a behavior, and then finally your identity. All right. Listen, you don't just feel afraid. All right. Over time, you become someone who, guess what, starts to expect disappointment, right? Who starts to limit your joy, right? Who anticipates rejection. How does that look? You're always waiting for the shoe to drop, right? You're like, oh, I know this person finna come with some, right? You're looking for, right? You're looking for the darkness, right? You're preparing yourself for the darkness. Listen, unchallenged stories don't just sit quietly. They start to really shape, right? How you think. All right. And they redefine who you think you are. All right. And so when you're like, I really just can't sit in this because I just know something's going to happen. It is. It is going to happen over and over and over again. Right. It's like you raise your right foot up to walk, right? To put it back down again. And then you raise it up and you put it back down again. And as you putting your right foot down, your left foot is up, right? And this is called walking, right? And so the shoe is going to drop because in life, right, we need the darkness and the light. All right. So you looking for something, you're going to find it. You're looking for the darkness, you're going to find it. And you're training yourself to only see that. And so many of us have so many things to be grateful for. You have so many things to be grateful for, but you're only paying attention to what? To the things that you don't like. And that is shaping your identity. That's shaping what you feel worthy of. That's shaping your expectation. All right. And so you need to start looking for the light, looking for that hope, looking for the slither of light and paying attention to it. Because the more you pay attention to that, guess what? The dark stuff is happening, but you're not paying attention to it as much. So we got to shift our focus. All right. So again, the longer you ignore the script, the more it shapes your identity. All right. Number three, many logical decisions, all right, are actually fear-based edits. All right. Listen, let me just wait a little longer. I don't think now is the right time. I need to pray about this a little more, right? On the surface, these sound reasonable. These are reasonable, what we call barters. Okay. Right. But beneath them is often fear. All right. Carefully dressed up as a strategy or this spiritual awareness. All right. Listen, fear is subtle. Fear is subtle in the beginning. It doesn't always scream, right? It gives you rational lies, right? So I say it rationalizes, right? It rationalizes with you, but they're really rational lies. There are enough lies to keep you in pause. Yeah, that makes sense. Maybe I don't need to do that. Maybe I do just need to sit back, right? And it's fear actually narrating the script, all right? And we have to stop that. All right, we have to stop it. All right. Which again, why I created the stop it now method, because there's so many things that we need to stop doing to allow what the divine part of us, the intelligence of us, the greatness of us to be seen, right? It's kind of like the stop it thing to me is like a strainer. Um, you know, right? You have, the liquid and the solid, and just say the solid stuff is all of the trauma, all of the stuff, right? That has built up over time, and you send it through a strainer so that the liquid part of you, the fluid part of you, the part of you that wants to move, the divine part, the spiritual part, right, can be separated from it. And we sometimes don't live in that fluid part of us because of all of the stuff. And so the stop it is really like the strainer, like, hey, let's stop that story. All right. Let's stop that. Let's stop talking to ourselves like that. Let's stop having that conversation. Let's stop paying attention to this, right? Let's strain that behavior back so the part of you that needs to flow out can flow, right? And you will see when you start to hold back, like how you talk to yourself, if you start holding back, talking to yourself in a bad way, right? Then you will start to see, right, more of this fluidity come out of you, more of this joy, more of this presence that you didn't even know was there because it was all jumbled with the stuff. Okay. All right. Does that make sense? Put a heart in the chat for me. All right. Again, emotional delay is often disguised as wisdom, right? You may believe you're hesitating, your hesitation is faithfulness or discernment, but honestly, it's fear avoidance, right? It's the fear of avoidance, right? You're not waiting for God's timing. You're avoiding discomfort, all right? So you're not always waiting for God's timing. You're actually avoiding discomfort. What looks like patience, right, may actually be paralysis of your it's paralysis, right? It's I want to say this because I do. I think we all experience this. I don't even say suffer from it, right? This whole idea that we're going to be patient, what looks like patience. I'm going to hold back. I'm going to pause. I'm going to wait, right, to the right time. And I think that we just need to question, is it fear? And if it is, okay. Right. Let's unpack that. Let's get somebody to hold a space for us. Let's, walk through that together. Right. Listen, wisdom invites clarity. Fear delays clarity to what? Preserve your control, right? Because I want to control my emotions, because I want to control the outcomes, because I want to control what happened, we sometimes will give fear permission because it is allowing us to stay, right, stuck. It is allowing us to stay in this comfortable uncomfortableness, all right? But wisdom, when we're seeking wisdom, it invites clarity, all right? And clarity is that thing that when you get it, we don't have to judge it. I'm scared. Okay. Okay. Right. Okay. I'm discouraged. I'm fearful. Okay. We don't have to judge. Okay. So what do you need? Right? What do you need from me? Right? What do you need from God? What do you need from your source? Right? And then have the courage to write that. Right? I need it. Maybe it is I need a accountability partner. Maybe it is I need I need some support. Maybe it is I need to breathe, right? Whatever that is, let's invite that. Okay. Um, Another thing I want you to know is fear is a brilliant fiction writer, right? It mixes truth with distortion, right? This is a fiction writer, right? Listen, fear will use real memories, real pain, and even scripture, you guys, but twist them to fit a distorted narrative. So it says you failed before, that means that you're not called. That is a half truth. That is not true at all, right? That's a half true storyteller, and dangerous because it feels familiar, right? So fear um builds a believer's lie using fragments of your own truth, right? You did fail before, right? You didn't get it right all the time, right? But that is no reason why not. That's not a justification or rational lie that's good enough for you not to try again. All right. That's not enough of a reason for you not to go after the life that you desire and deserve. Okay. All right. Another thing I want you to know is that your nervous system rehearses what it believes is safe. And you've heard me talk about the nervous system a lot. Okay. So your nervous system actually rehearses what it believes is safe, even if that safety keeps you small. All right. Listen, you can become neurologically addicted to playing small. All right. Your brain and your body will default to what's familiar, not to what's faithful. All right. And if silence once kept you safe, then guess what? Your nervous system will silence you. All right. Even when it's time to speak. All right. So if silence was the thing that kept you safe when you was little, hold your tongue. Don't speak your truth, right? If that's the thing that kept you safe, then guess what? Your nervous system will revert back to silence. All right. We don't have to judge that, but just the awareness of it gives you enough space to choose something differently. All right. The safety fear creates in survival mode is comfort, not it's not it's not spiritual led courage. All right. All right. And again, I'm all about awareness. You hear me talk about this art of life, ART, right? The first art to life, right? Creating life by design, which is art, right? Is to just become aware. All right. Just become aware. All right. And then we can right? Release and rise. Okay. And then when we learn how to release, we can rise, we can do the T. We can take a different action, right? We can tell ourselves something different, right? We can tune into a different emotion, right? We have the ability to do that in this art of life. All right. As we're creating and forming life. Okay. All right. A couple more things. All right. You can rewrite the story with alignment, not anxiousness. All right. You don't need to wait until fear is gone to really live free. Freedom is not about the absence of fear, you guys. It's about alignment with the truth despite your fears. All right. When you move in truth, guess what? The story starts changing, even while fear whispers in the background. So, again, biblically, it says that the truth will set you free. And some of that truth is just admitting where you're at. All right. I talk about the the map quest, right? You're trying to get somewhere, and it's going to ask you the next question, where are you now? Right? Can I use your current destination? Yes. And maybe your current destination is scared. Maybe it is fearful. All right, now what do you need? All right, this is how we move from there. And a lot of us are trying to jump over where we currently are emotionally, mentally, or whatever, trying to make it to a destination, and we're never getting there, right? Or we're not getting the clarity or the alignment that we need because we're saying we're somewhere else and you're not there. And that's okay, right? Let's get the awareness of knowing that you're not there, and then be honest with ourselves and courageous, speak our truth, right? So that we can get the alignment that we need. All right. Your identity is not a reaction to your trauma. All right. Listen, you are not the resilient one just because you had to survive. All right. You are not the quiet one because you fear rejection. All right. Those are survival traits. Those are not spiritual traits. All right. Your healed self isn't found in who you had to be, it's found in who you already are. Right, the healed you is the part of you that's restoring you, right? And it's always been there. All right, that seed in you, that divinity in you, right, that healed you, it's always healing. It's kind of like what's coming up is, we shed skin, right? And there's skin that's already prepared when I shed the skin. It's hair follicles that I lose, but there's hair that's already there to replace that hair, right? As we age, our cells, right? They break down, but there's cells there, right? Because healing is a part of who we are. All right. So the healed self isn't found in who you had to be, it's found in who you already are. All right. And a couple of more things. Rewriting begins with permission. Listen, the story doesn't change when you earn enough clarity. It changes when you give yourself permission to really outgrow the old narrative. Again, permission is the first act of liberation, and you can give yourself permission. And again, if you need someone else's, I give it to you. Okay. I give it to you, right? If you need someone else's, that's okay. You have it. Be great, right? One of the things I would tell my kids when I dropped them off at school, when they got out the car, I love you and be great, right? Be great. And guess what? Your greatness today may look very different than what is required to be your greatness tomorrow. But in all things that you do, be great, okay? Be great. Be great in it, all right? Um, Rewrite again, because rewriting begins with permission, all right? The story doesn't change the story doesn't change when you earn enough clarity. Again, it changes when you give yourself permission to outgrow it. You don't need a sign to change your story. You just need a yes. Okay, you just need a yes, a soulful yes. All right. And last but not least, God already gave you the pen. All right. You just need to use it. Okay. You don't have to beg for authority that you have already been given. All right. Scripture says that you've been given power, love, and a sound mind. That's Timothy, 2 Timothy 1:7. So fear won't hand over the pen. You guys, you must take it back. All right. Because guess what? It's yours. All right. So the pen is your faith, your truth, and your voice. And it's time to use that to write what? Your story, to rewrite it. All right. So here's our biblical wisdom. If you enjoyed that session, drop a heart in the chat for me. Okay, so here's our biblical wisdom. 2 Timothy again, 1:7. For God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. The interpretation of this is that God didn't author fear, He authored freedom. Okay. If is um fear is writing your decisions, you've outsourced that script to something, right, that never was a part of your design. All right. And then our promise verse is that Isaiah 41:10, do not fear, for I am with you. I will strengthen you and help you. Again, the interpretation of this is you're not rewriting alone. The spirit within you is the editor in chief of your courage. All right. I do want to go into like the science around this. All right. So I want to unpack these scriptures just a little bit more deeper. All right. So again, 2 Timothy 1:7, for God has not given you the spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. That is our promise verse. All right. Like this verse is not telling us to never feel fear. All right. It's reminding us that fear is not the origin story. All right. It's not your original story. It's not the 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 origin of who you are. It was something that was given to you along the way. All right. The spirit that lives within you is hardwired for what? For the power, which is agency, for love, which is connection, and in a sound mind, which is clarity and regulation. So what this means is that you were not created to live in a panic loop. All right. Your soul already has the blueprint of peace. And when fear leads your decisions, guess what? You're out of alignment with your design, right? It's not about eliminating fear, though, right? It's really about agreeing. It's really about not agreeing with it as your identity. All right. It's about not agreeing with it as your identity. So I want to go back because I want to explain this when it says that it's not your origin story, right? So fear is not a part of your origin story. So right now, we have a source, consumers energy, right, that gives the big power plant, and it breaks down right into smaller vessels. So you see the streets, right, the street poles, and then the street poles connect, and then they go into the house, and then the house has a breaker, right, and then that breaker breaks down into rooms, breaks down power to different rooms, and then you have like your plug. All right. So when I'm talking about fear not being your origin story, sometimes we treat fear like it's consumers power. It's not. All right. Sometimes fear is just this plug right here, and this plug, this one plug, right, or it could be a breaker, right? It's not the origin of you. So when it pops, right, or when it does something, it may shut the room off, right? It may shut the electricity off in the room, but it didn't shut electricity off in the whole house, or it didn't like break the power in the whole neighborhood, right? But we will see it like that, right? We will use it as if it has shut down our whole world, and it hasn't. It's just here. All right. It's just in this space. All right. And I encourage you to not allow fear to be the origin of who you are, the identity of who you are. The identity of who you are is a child of the Most High, whatever the Most High is for you. All right. Right. You come from a source that is omnipresent, that is great, that is grand, right? And no situation or circumstances in this life, right, has the ability to shut that source off. All right. Right now, we may again overload our circuits. You may have a breaker to pop. So you're going to feel fear, but it's not the origin of who you are. All right. The neuroscience connection. Remember last week I started the neuroscience. So the neuroscience connection of this verse is that this verse mirrors what trauma informed neuroscience really teaches, right? So we have something called the amygdala. All right. The amygdala actually triggers fear responses to keep us alive. All right. But it overfires when it's shaped by what? By trauma. All right. So with tools like mindfulness, somatic grounding, which is like breathing, meditation, and things like that, and reframing, we get to what? Activate the prefrontal cortex, which is really your rational mind, right? And that is what gives us the clarity, the self-control, and the presence, aka a sound mind. All right. All right. Neuroplasticity also proves that we can rewire our brains away from fear-based responses and towards what? Peace and power. In other words, the scripture said it first, and then neuroscience caught up and said, yes, your brain is actually designed to do this, right? Neuroscience supports the fact that you were created in love, with power, and with a sound mind. So this is not just biblical, it is by design, the way your brain is created. All right. The second verse, our promise, So that was our principal verse. Here's our promise verse. Do not fear, for I am with you. This is Isaiah 41:10. Do not dismay, for I am God. I will strengthen you and help you, right? I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. The spiritual interpretation of this one is that this isn't a command to, just stop being scared. All right. It's an invitation to really anchor your nervous system into a truth that's greater than your trauma. All right. Into a truth that's greater than your trauma. God isn't yelling from the clouds, you guys. Okay. This divinity, right, is really speaking from within you. And it's saying, I'm your strength, right? I'm in you and I am your strength. I'm your calm and I'm your anchor. All right. So this verse really recenters your soul by reminding you of what? That you are not alone, right? In your healing, right? It's built in you. All right. That you don't have to conquer your peace, right? It's there. All right. And strength isn't always available. I mean, that your strength is always available. It just needs to be accessed, not earned, right? And a lot of us are looking to earn love, to earn our power, to earn our strength. And it just needs to be activated because it's already in you, all right? And neuroscience actually supports this, right? What Isaiah promises is that safety through what Isaiah promises is safety through presence, right? It is really your nervous system regulating, right? So neuroscience calls it co-regulation. This is when the presence of another, right? Another person, another thing, right, is safe and grounded and it's co-regulated. What does co-regulated means? It's when you're crying and someone comes to you and comforts you, and then they start to breathe and you start to co-regulate their breathing. It's when your kid, right, is like, right, and then you go and you calm your kid down, right? You're like, calm down. You're helping that kid to like co-regulate, right? Because you're modeling for the kid, breathe, right? And so now your nervous system, right, is now helping to regulate your child's nervous system. And we have that ability, right, to do that with ourselves. All right. So there's an entity in you that can help you co-regulate. And this is grounding yourself, it's breathing and things like that. Spiritually, right? God felt presence often offers the same type of grounding, right? That's why prayer, that's why meditation and spiritual embodying actually calms our spirit, right? So when we go to pray, when we meditate, when we breathe, it's this co-regulation that's happening with this divine entity that's within us. All right. Okay. And then there's a theory that explains the safety shift. That safety shifts us from fight to flight into connection. All right. So God's promise of this merit of I am with you, guess what? That theory will shift you from fight or flight, right, to connection. Just knowing that God's presence is here actually relieves us. And we see this, right? We see this in people who have high spiritual presence or a relationship with God. It's kind of like they're not moved, right? Because they understand that God's presence is with them. So just like science says connections regulates us, guess what? God's nearness does the same thing. Okay. All right. Does that make sense? All right. Because here's the emotional truth. Second Timothy 1:7, you were wired, you were wired for chaos. I mean, you were wired for clarity, not chaos. And neuroscience says that you can rewire your brain towards peace, which is called neuroplasticity. And then Isaiah 41:10 says God's presence is the antidote to fear. Guess what? Co-regulation reduces anxiety and actually restores the nervous system. All right, that's the science part of it. So we have to learn how to co-regulate ourselves. All right, and that's sometimes being in an environment or just knowing that God's presence is there, meditating, grounding ourselves, putting our feet on the ground. And that's why I teach you guys how to scan your bodies every day if that's something new for you. Okay. And again, that's why I told Brittany earlier, right, to co-regulate herself. When you go into there and to take that test, right, you're going to feel this nervousness and you have to regulate that emotion and breathe, right, and understand that there's a presence in you, right, that's regulating with you. Okay. All right. If that makes sense, put a heart in the chat for me. Listen, when I read these verses, I don't hear this God in the sky, right? Demanding for emotional perfection. You know what I hear? I hear this divine entity, right? This strong inner whisper reminding me and reminding you that fear might have shaped our past. All right. But it doesn't get to rewrite your next chapter. It doesn't get to rewrite our next chapter, you guys. It may have shaped our parents, our grandparents, our ancestors. Fear did, right? How they moved, how they stood up, what they did. And we hear it in their language. All right. But it doesn't have to shape your future. All right. So I want to encourage you that to when you start to hear fear, all right, I want you to whisper to yourself that you were made in power, love, and a sound mind. All right. I got a question for you. I want to ask you this. What truth would you rewrite if fear wasn't holding the pen? All right. All right. So let's put this into practice. All right. Here's your action steps. I want you to write down one belief that fear taught you, right? Write it down. And then I want you to cross it out. All right. And then I want you to replace it with an identity rooted truth about who you are. Okay. All right. If you need help with that, go to ChatGPT and say, hey, you know, what is one identity rooted truth about me? Okay. Choose one and write it down. All right. Stick it on your mirror or something like that so you can start to, rewrite who you are. If you need a journal prompt, I want you to, here's a journal. What narrative have I internalized that was rooted in fear? And what new story will I write from truth? All right. The affirmation for today is I no longer rehearse what fear taught me. I write from alignment, from courage, and from truth. And then the intention for today, I rewrite my narrative with truth, not from trauma. And then the bonus challenge for the next 24 hours, I want you to speak one truth out loud that fear used to silence. All right. If this session resonated with you, oh, well, I do that call, that challenge, and that charge. Okay. So here's my call. What fear-based belief are you are you done rehearsing? The challenge I have for you today is to speak one sentence of your new story today, and then the charge. Listen, you are not what fear wrote. You are what God declared you are. So go write your life in alignment. All right. Go write your life in alignment. All right. So if this session really resonated with you and you are walking away with some insight today, you already know what to do. Drop a fire in the chat. All right. If you're ready to break those old loops and really build new language of truth, you already know Project Life is the container for sustained transformation. If you want to join that project, you can join it today at shelittle.com/life, right? That's $97 and you get a whole host of support, right? In that's $97 a month. All right. I want you to remember this. If you can shape it in your mind, you can have it in your life. And if you don't know how to shape it in your mind, then I would ask you to join that project. All right. Listen, if you're ready to break the old loops and build, like, again, new language and truth, that project is here for you. Tomorrow, guess what? We're going to explore the cost of playing small, right? Fear isn't free. All right. Fear isn't free. We'll talk about what fear is actually costing you. It's what is costing you and how to really take your power back. I want you to know this, that I love you. I love you. I love you. And know this, that fear doesn't get the final word unless you stop writing. All right. It doesn't get the final word unless you stop writing. So today, I want you to pick up your pen and begin to write again. All right. I love you again. I love you. And I'll see you tomorrow for that life lesson. All right. Till later.